This presentation is about the division of labor at universities, how it's changed, and what it means for your education. On Wednesday the 25th, all across the United States, lots of faculty of different types are participating in National Adjunct Walkout Day, a protest event organized by activists to educate and speak out against the way the system is structured at the moment. This presentation will explain why the event is happening, what it has to do with you, and what you can do to participate. So here's the situation. Many people think that teaching at a university is a dream job, and in a lot of ways it is. Many instructors of various levels have flexible schedules, time to study and share what they are passionate about, and the opportunity to work with young people, which is very rewarding. However, it used to be that most college teachers were eventually tenured. This means they've got great benefits, great job security, and lots of freedom to research, write about, and teach what they're interested in. Over the course of the last few decades, though, universities have hired fewer and fewer professors on the tenure track in favor of more and more adjunct instructors. The word adjunct can describe a variety of positions, but it essentially means you're contracted for shorter periods of time with fewer benefits. As you can see on this slide, an adjunct instructor makes an average of $100,000 a year less than a tenure track professor. Only 10% of people who get PhDs end up getting these coveted tenure track jobs, and adjunct positions have swollen to a record high 76% of college faculties. Let's take a look at what this actually looks like nationwide. Now, the good news is that Ohio State's ratio of tenure track to adjunct faculty is a little better than the national average. While the university itself doesn't publish exact numbers of adjunct laborers, the website collegefactual.com reports that, on main campus at least, OSU uses an average of 15% more full-time instructors than the national average. In terms of tenured professors, or professors on the tenured track versus those who aren't, the ratio is roughly 60-40. Now, before we go any further, let's break down what it means to be associated faculty. This essentially means any instructor who is not a tenured track or already tenured professor. This can include visiting professors, often well-respected experts brought in just for a semester or a year, but given all the privileges of a tenured track professor, and senior lecturers who have excellent benefits and a good amount of freedom, but relatively little job security. But lots of people who fall under the same category are term lecturers or adjunct faculty, and they almost always find themselves with the problems listed here: lower pay, fewer or no benefits, little professional support, lack of job security, unpredictable schedules. A lot of those bullet points speak for themselves, but let's zero in on professional support. According to a survey conducted by Chronicle Vitae, a community for academics on the web, many associate faculty experienced these difficulties. More than 60 people who responded to the survey said their salaries put them beneath the federal poverty line. Many qualified for Medicaid and food stamps. An overwhelming 95% of the respondents said they had no job stability and didn't know what courses they would be teaching from one semester to the next, or whether they would have a job at all. Some said they found out what courses they're teaching just days before the term begins. More than 100 respondents said they'd never had time to prepare for their courses. Some even had difficulty getting such basic information as student email addresses and textbook information. But the problem didn't stop there. Institutions of higher education can and do take advantage of contingent faculty's precarious status under current employment laws and dedication to their profession to get long hours of teaching work for little and at times delayed payment in return. The federal law setting minimum wage, overtime, and timely pay standards for both hourly and salary workers currently does not cover contingent faculty, regardless of how poorly or how often they are paid, simply because they are teachers. The Family Medical Leave Act is one that allows paid time off with continuation of benefits for things like childbirth and serious illness. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program eases student debt if you work in the public sector, but eligibility for these programs depends on number of hours worked, which means that often adjuncts don't have access to them. You may be asking yourself, why? This probably seems unfair, irrational, even illegal. So let's take a look at the way the hours in a week are broken down for many instructors. This chart is based on a typical week. As you can see, many instructors are only in the classroom for a pretty small fraction of the time they're working towards what happens in there. Those who are not associated faculty have a salary, benefits, and the office space to account for these other things. But often for adjuncts, their treatment is based only on the number of hours they're actually in the classroom. So let's talk about what all this has to do with you as students. The average undergraduate tuition here is over $10,000 for an in-state student and over $26,000 for out-of-state and international students, though it's often much higher for internationals. Ohio State is a great school, and you can get a top-notch education here. But any way you look at this, it's a lot of money, a huge investment. Don't you think, with the amount of money you're spending here, that you deserve instructors who have the support they need in order to teach you as best they can? To illustrate, here's some excerpts from student evaluations of an instructor while she was an adjunct. Obviously, these are just a few chosen lines, but these comments really show how the lack of administrative support affect what happens in the classroom. Now, here are some comments from evaluations from the following year of the same instructor teaching the same class. Here are some things that changed over the course of the year for this instructor. A jump in salary. She went from having no benefits to having excellent health care. She went from a basement office to one that is very comfortable. And she had time to go to professional development workshops that enhanced her teaching knowledge and methods. So what can you do? Make some noise. You could write a letter to the administration calling for a change, participate in demonstrations on campus on Wednesday, post about it on Facebook or Twitter, and contact local news outlets and politicians. Ohio State is one of the biggest schools in the country, and if enough people speak up, the situation is bound to improve.